Hello there, fellow kids. This is Speak Up, a podcast where we talk about how to speak up and why it's important to do so. The moment you notice unfair situations, and we are the hosts. I'm Alex, my pronouns are he, him, and today I'll be the clueless bystander that wants to do better.
Hey, my name is Dan, he, him, and I'm the trans one, so I know everything. Just kidding. I'm still learning myself. But today, what we are going to talk about is how to speak up when you hear that someone is being misgendered.
But Dan, what does being misgendered mean?
Misgendering means using particular pronouns for a person, but they don't identify with these pronouns. How to know what pronouns to use? Just ask. Your eyes can tell you lies. That's why never assume, always ask.
That's a great point to put out because for most part people are shy to ask in these situations.
I think it's just basic respect. We all want to receive respect on a daily basis, obviously. But respect is a two-way street. If you want to be respected, you also have to give this respect. That's why you should be considerate and ask first. Actually, doing so also helps on a bigger scale. It helps you to practice thinking before speaking. So take 2 extra seconds before speaking and ask for a person's pronouns if you are not sure.
Definitely. I wouldn't like to be called something I'm not either. I have heard that pronouns are an important part of trans people's transitioning journey.
Oh, yes, of course. Uh, During this journey, there are different types of transitioning. Legal, when you change your name and or gender marker on your legal documents. Medical, when you start hormone therapy and or receive surgeries for your body to match your identity, your soul. And social transitioning, usually the first step of a person's transitioning process. You find your new name, you find the pronouns your soul identifies with, and you start to introduce yourself to people with this name and pronouns. That's why it's crucial for trans folks to be gendered correctly. The beginnings are always hard already. Let's not make it even harder for them by assuming the pronouns and hurting their soul.
I remember a situation where I'm at a bar and a friend that I known for a long time calls me out for a smoke with their friends that I haven't met before. In between the conversations, I mentioned their name, and one of their friends cut me off and said that it's not okay what I'm doing, but did not elaborate on what's wrong. Only later I understood what the problem might have been. How do I approach these situations? How can I help? Because maybe some trans people don't want to be put in a spotlight like that.
We are social beings on this planet, and by default, we are put in different social circles. When it comes to queer community, we can't necessarily be out of the closet to everyone right away. The most important thing is our safety. That's why before the hangout, check in with your friend by asking, are you out to these people? What pronouns am I using when I'm talking about you? Am I correcting people if they misgender you? Basically, always recheck beforehand. Safety first.
Exactly. Regarding safety, there's also nonverbal communication. Nonverbal signs that we can use on the spot. For example, there is a hand signal to give a message that someone is in danger. You hold up an open palm, tuck your thumb against it, and fold your fingers over the thumb. It was designed as a continuous movement rather than a static signal that could be easily noticed. Or you can also make a deal with your friends and create a completely new one.
Agreed. Creating a unique signal actually gives another layer of safety because it will make sense only to you and the person you made this signal with.
Keeping on about safety and safer spaces. Another tool to create a safer space is inclusive language. Inclusive language is using words and also pronouns that are not gender specific. For example, instead of guys, use people. Instead of assuming people's gender and pronouns, use they, them. If you're not sure or don't know at all.
Right on point. Because queer people in general, but especially trans folks, are in need of feeling safe and acknowledged. Why am I putting emphasis on trans people? Because, for example, Alex, if someone assumes you're straight, it won't emotionally and mentally affect you as much as a trans person is affected if they notice that people around aren't grasping any other concepts except female, male. How is it visible? The lack of inclusive language. Me personally, when I notice the lack of inclusive language, I'm already alert because I'm getting ready to hear misgendering left, right, and center. Unfortunately, in 90% of cases, it turns out to be true. How about you? What is your relationship with the concept of inclusive
I do
language?
I do try to incorporate I do try to incorporate it in my daily life, but have to admit that it doesn't come naturally. Got to work on that, definitely. Especially in Latvian, where the neutral form is considered to be male. But English is a different story. It's not that hard to rewire your thinking pattern. For example, regarding they them pronouns. There is this hot discussion all the time. They them implies that it's plural. Using it in a singular sense is not grammatically correct. Well, first, let's stop lying to ourselves. Singular they is already in our brain. For example, I saw a person today, they had a red hat, but it's in English. We're both Latvians, and our language is very gendered. While in English, for example, nouns aren't. What what do we do when it comes to other languages?
To give a little bit of context, in Latvian, if we ask, have you done this? It's gendered. For our listeners who speak Latvian, vai tu esi darījis, darījusi? In this case, I reconstruct the sentence and I make it so it doesn't have any gender mentions. For example, instead of have you done this, I ask have you had any experience with this? Vai tev ir bijusi pieredze? It's not that hard. You just have to have a will. I know at first it's hard and it's uncomfortable to think that intensely just to ask one question. But trust me when I say, you won't ever be as uncomfortable as a trans folk who's alert that any second they could be misgendered because they noticed the lack of inclusive language. Also, this is another moment of practice to train yourself in thinking before speaking.
Why is it important to speak? Why is it important to speak up when someone is being misgendered?
When it comes to trans folks, even if we are completely solid already in our identity inside of us, it still takes time to get confident enough to speak up. It takes courage and a lot of work with yourself. That's why in these situations, it's an important moment to step in and show a person that they aren't alone, that to show them that they are seen, heard, and supported. For you, it might be a quick second that you forget about afterwards, but for a trans folk, it's going to brighten the whole day, maybe even the whole week.
To sum up the conversation of today, when you are not sure about person's pronouns, use they, them, or wish in Latvia.
If your close ones aren't out of the closet in every social circle of theirs, recheck every single time how to approach these
Use inclusive
situations.
language to create safer and braver spaces around you.
And remember that nonverbal communication also exists.